Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reasons Podcast, episode 7. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest with me. His name is Dr. Eddie Mukim. He's no stranger to Reasons to Believe as well. And today, we're going to talk on a very important and a very special topic as well. As we commemorate World Suicide Prevention Day, I hope that this podcast will reach out to those that are in need and particularly help people who may feel that they are going through a lot of things. We hope that this podcast will be a blessing to you. And also, if you like our content, we would like to urge you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on our social media platforms as well. And we also have our new website available. You can follow us on rtbapac.in. This is a new website, and there are a lot of contents like these. And also, you can follow this podcast on our website as well. So, Dr. Mukim, welcome, and we are so glad that you could be here with us. Dr. Eddie Mukim, he's graduated his psychiatry from the prestigious institution of AIMS, and he's currently working as a consultant psychiatrist at Suncare Hospital, which is a hospital that is takes care of those that are mentally ill, and also a rehabilitation center as well. And he also works at Roberts Hospital, and he's been in this profession for about 23 years now. So he's a man with a vast experience, and we hope that his expertise will also be a blessing to all of us. And Dr. Eddie has been invited to speak on a number of platforms on mental health and also substance addiction in various church settings and also in different institutions around the state as well. So, Dr. Eddie, let me just begin with this question. When did World Suicide Prevention Day start, and what was the purpose? And is there a theme for this year's World Suicide Prevention Day?
Thank you so much, Brother Joala, for this opportunity to celebrate this World Suicide Prevention Day with Reason to Believe. And it's a pleasure for me to be here.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a sad topic to discuss, but then it's the need of the hour, especially among Christian circles, because sometimes there's a lot of stigma around suicide, discuss these mental health and depression, but then you should not brush it under the carpet. It should come out. We need to discuss these things. So I want to thank Reason to Believe also for celebrating this day, for coming out with this awareness program, because it's a very important issue. So World Suicide Prevention Day is celebrated by the International Association of Suicide Prevention, along with WHO, along with World Federation of Mental Health, since 2003. Every year in the 10th of September every year.
Okay.
Mainly to raise awareness about suicide and what can be done to prevent it. And really needed to have awareness, because we really don't realize how prevalent, how common it is, people who take their own lives. Around 1 lakh per year, people take their own life, dies out of suicide.
Oh my.
It comes in our country, in India, it's around 12 people per 1 lakh population per year. It's a very big number.
Oh my.
They say around 40 seconds in the whole world, someone dies of suicide. And again, among the students, the young adults, from 15 to 24 years of age, it's the first or second most reason for a killer of young adults.
Oh, wow.
So it's a kind of epidemic. And for every one person who takes their own life, there are around 25 people who attempt to take their lives.
Oh, wow.
So it's an epidemic which we all need to be aware of, and to raise awareness and to play a part. And like I said, because of the stigma, it has to come out, especially among the churches, the youth group. We should discuss this topic.
Exactly.
So every year we have a theme, and the past 2 years the theme is creating hope through action. Creating hope through action. And obviously the theme is to, of course, people who have suicidal thoughts, they go through a lot of pain, they feel trapped, it's a cry for help, they feel hopeless. But then through this theme, we want to tell them that there is hope. We are supporting with them, going along with them.
Yeah.
And hope through action. Know that each one of us, each person can play a part through whatever action, big or small, to prevent someone from taking their own lives. And also to remind us that it is a public health issue. I mean, it's so common. The government has to bring out policies, many things that can be done to improve mental health and to prevent suicide. So that's the theme, creating hope through action.
Creating hope through action. What an amazing theme. And the statistics that you just provided there, every suicide in every 40 seconds, which means
that's
by the
true.
time that you just finished answering that question, someone must have lost their life.
That's true.
And I mean, this is something that really needs to be addressed and something that people need to be talking about even more.
Yes.
I think this is what an apt theme as well. And on a lighter note, since you've been talking about psychiatrists and so on and so forth, I was just interacting with Dr. Eddie over here, and he told me about who a psychiatrist is. He told me that a psychiatrist is one who will stop listening to you when you start to make sense. So, I mean, Dr. Eddie is one of those persons. So, I hope that I am making sense at the same time, not making sense, so that we can have this conversation as well. I mean, I think the next question, Dr. Eddie, that we can go to is, what are the causes or the reasons for suicide? And apart from these causes, are there any warning signs or red flags that someone in our family, our friend circle could be having, so that we could be aware of their potential, wanting to commit suicide? So could you just enlighten us with these as well?
Yeah, so there's not a single cause.
Yeah.
We don't have a single cause. Usually it's a combination of causes that causes a person to go through suicide. But from the National Crime Bureau, the studies, the thing that they have come out over the past 2-3 years, especially from the pandemic time, they have found that a number of risk factors for people who have taken their own lives, which include daily wage earners, unemployment, those are self-employed. Obviously, during pandemic, because of the financial stress and financial issues that people go through. So those are risk factors. One risk factor that the Crime Bureau has found out, at least in India, is that the family issues is a cause for people to take their own lives, which includes pressures to students from their parents and interpersonal problem, divorce. So all these different problems are there. Another problem like chronic physical illness, cancer or any chronic illness is also a risk factor. Then people with different mental illness, as we all know, people with depression, something called bipolar disorder. These are some of the risks.
Sure.
Then people from the LGBTQ community, we know that they have a higher risk to undergo suicide. Then those who take drugs and alcohol. Children people have gone through being bullied or abused during childhood. So all these different risk factors works together. And some studies have shown that in spite of all the different external stress, there's one final common pathway that most people go through depression before suicide. That means in the months before they have taken their own lives, most of them goes through this illness called depression.
Okay.
Where they are sad and they are withdrawn and it has not been treated.
Sure.
And that leads to thing. So that depression is the final common pathway, in spite of all the different stress. And of course, another factor is lack of social connectedness.
Okay.
Those are not socially involved with others, who are most aloof, alone, less friends. That's also a risk factor. Then the red flags. How can we detect people who might have this problem of suicide?
Yeah.
So like I said, because depression is the common pathway, so usually studies have been done. They called psychological autopsies.
Okay.
When a person dies, we do physical autopsy
Yeah.
to find the reason.
Yeah.
So when someone died by suicide, we do a psychological autopsy to find what's the reason before the person did that act. Is there any red flag, any signs are there? And we have seen that most of them, there's a myth that people who have died by suicide, it occurs suddenly.
Okay.
But then that is not true.
Okay.
Mostly some signs are there. They would have gone to a doctor, to a counselor with their problems. Some of them would be talking about death, talking that it's no use to live, feeling worthless, feeling hopeless. I'm a burden to my family. The world's better off without me. So these signs are there, which they have come out of the conversation, which family members do not take it seriously. Some of them would have written down, especially now in social media. They would have written down social media about all these things.
Yeah.
That no, life is worthless. I don't feel like living. So these signs are there.
Okay.
Some of them they will appear withdrawn, staying alone. They'll be unkempt, not taking care of the personal appearance, not taking care of the personal hygiene. So these signs are there. Then one more thing, which risk factor is people who have attempted before. Those who have attempted suicide previously, they are more at risk that they will attempt suicide again later on. Then some people do before suicide, they have become more impulsive.
Okay.
They'll just drive rashly, drive very fast, or some will start giving the belonging, something precious.
Okay.
Might be whatever, a jewelry or something precious to them. They'll give it to someone else.
I see.
Because they know that they're going to, end their lives. So these are the red flags.
Okay.
Another red flag which is usually seen is that for months a person appear withdrawn, sad, depressed. Then suddenly they appear, suddenly they look happy,
Okay.
they look relieved. They might feel like they are better now.
Okay.
But that is a sign just before they do the act.
Okay.
Because usually the reason that past few months they have been struggling.
Sure.
Ambivalence there. Should I do it? Should I not do it? At the end, that ambivalence is gone. They decide to do it. They feel relief. They look happy. But then
That
it
is
leads
when-
to things. So that time is more dangerous. Especially when a person is gloomy or sad, suddenly becomes happy. So we have to be very careful of that.
Sure.
So these are some red flags, and most of them are the symptoms of depression. So the symptoms of depression, being alone, withdrawn, not able to sleep, thinking of suicide, expressing about suicide, writing in the diaries, writing in social media. So we do educate a family member that if anyone has that thing, to be ready for it and to be careful during such times. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. So there'll be a few expressions, that can be seen in such persons. At first, they'll feel very depressed. They'll feel very sad.
Yeah.
Then there'll be a period of where they will be in a state where they feel that their life is worthless.
Yeah.
And they will feel that they are not worth being a part of a family member or group of friends or something like that. And ultimately, when they've made the decision that I will finally commit suicide, that is when their mood suddenly seems to change.
They lift the mood.
That is
and
when
they
we
decide.
need to be careful
That's
the
true.
most.
Yeah.
Wow, I think that is something that we, the viewers need to understand as well.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Eddie, I think that question now will lead to how can we help or prevent people who have suicidal tendency, and how or where can such people who are at risk find help?
So we need to help them. And I like to talk about different myths that people have about suicide.
Sure.
One more myth is that people who talk about suicide won't do it. But that is not true.
Yes.
There's a saying that, barking dogs don't bite.
Yeah.
It might be true in other situations, but not in suicide.
Okay.
If anyone has expressed these ideas that feeling of being a burden to family, feeling of worthlessness, talking about death, we have to take it seriously. Because sometimes maybe people might feel, they're just joking, they're just being dramatic.
Yeah.
They won't do it.
Yeah.
But then you have to take it seriously. It's better to be safe than sorry. So that is one thing. To any person who talks about suicide has to be taken seriously. And then another myth that some people feel that if someone is thinking of suicide, then they're going to do it. You cannot help them. You cannot do anything about it. But then that again is not true, because most people who think about suicide, have suicidal thoughts, are ambivalent. There's always struggle.
Sure.
There's a desire to die, but then there's also an instinct which God has put in us, the desire to live. So most of them, like I said, they are in pain. It's a cry for help. They feel trapped. They don't know what to do. So we should not feel that that we cannot help them. We can help them, and so that's what. So if someone is talking about suicide, I should be ready to not to be afraid to go out and help that person. To say that you look moody, you look sad, you look different. Sometimes you might have that gut feeling that something is not wrong, something is wrong, And if you feel like that, then definitely something is not right, and we have to talk to that person. Then the another myth that people have that if I'm counseling someone,
Sure.
should I ask them about suicide? If I ask about suicide, maybe I'm planting that thought in their mind,
Okay.
which is again not true,
Uh-huh.
because we don't have to plan anything.
Yeah.
The suicidal thoughts come automatically in the person's mind. It's not someone planting it from outside. So that's what I like to say to all counselors. Even if the person looks happy, even if you're talking about something neutral, it's always good to talk, to ask a person. Of course, not in a rough, rude way, but then to look ask that you look sad, you look gloomy. Sometimes do you feel that do you feel that life is not worth living? You feel I think of death. Sometimes you might use the word suicide also. Just don't be ashamed to ask that. No, do you think you have suicidal thoughts? Any plan of it? We should ask about that, such things, and don't be afraid that I'm planting the thought.
Yeah.
You're not planting anything. I mean, if the person has it, come in, and once you ask, the person feels relief. Because it's something very shameful to talk about. No, most people tend to hide it. And like you said, I think studies have shown that most of us have suicidal thoughts one time or the other.
Yeah.
And usually it's something shameful, so we don't want to show it to the whole world. But then if someone asks from me, I feel relieved that someone understands my problem. So we need to ask and to tell that person, know that I'm there for you. I mean, God loves you. God has a plan for you. That I'll be there for you, even through this problem. Know that I'll be always be there for you. Regardless of the response. Sometimes the person might cut you off. I don't have problem. I don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to help you. You're cutting me off. I'm going away.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning they will not talk about it, but continue to be a friend, be there for him or her, and when he or she has reached rock bottom, they will open up.
Sure.
Not to take his denial, not to take it personally. So to tell the person, see, I'm willing to take you to. You have to go to a counselor, to a psychologist, to a psychiatrist, to take you. I'll be there for you to take for help. Sometimes you have to inform the family members that this person is going through these suicidal thoughts. So main thing is to take it seriously, talk with the person, and be willing to listen. No? Let the person talk, let the person ventilate all his emotion, not to be afraid. Sometimes we feel, not to show any shock. Sure. Oh, you're having suicidal thoughts. Don't be think. It is very common. There's nothing to be ashamed of. No, it's okay not to be okay. So, and help. Help. There's so many things. There are many counselors. All the hospitals now have a psychologist. They have a psychiatrist. Yeah. Here we can. Most churches have counselors. There are places like Sun Care, Civil Hospital, Hands. So many places where people can go and get help.
Yeah.
And there are many helplines also,
Sure.
through which people can get help to think.
Yeah.
So one more thing is, again, if once you feel that you have depression also, that either counseling or even medication.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised how much a person who's completely depressed and suicidal, once medication, you give medication, antidepressants, in 2-3 days, it's as if something has been washed from the arteries, all the rubbish that has clogged your brain has been washed away, and the person will feel relief. So there should be no shame, or shouldn't be afraid of taking medication. So there's no shame in going for counseling when we have problems.
Sure. Wonderful. Yeah. So dear viewers, if you know anyone who's struggling with depression, or if you are such a person and you want someone to talk to, we just want to assure you that we are here for you. You can talk to someone like Dr. Eddie, or someone who's a psychiatrist themselves, or you can reach us out at Reasons to Believe as well. If you just want a prayer and someone just to talk to, just express your feelings as well, we are here for you. We just want to assure you that. So you're not alone, and we want to support you, and we want to help you through your struggles as well. So we are here for you. So Dr. Eddie, thank you so much for those enlightening answers as well. And I just want to personalize this. Supposing I as a person was supposed to talk to someone who's going through all of this. So how can I talk and help such people? And how can I as a person, or some of our viewers who may be knowing someone who's going through all of this, instill hope in such persons who have suicidal thoughts? Could you just share a few thoughts on those as well? Yeah.
So how do you define suicide? Suicide is a voluntary intentional attempt to end one life. That's one definition. Someone has defined suicide as a permanent, irreversible attempt
Okay.
to solve a temporary problem. A permanent, irreversible attempt to solve a temporary problem. And it's not a wise solution.
Yeah.
It's like killing an ant using a sledgehammer. Where
Yeah.
yeah, of course, we understand the person is going through a lot of pain, overwhelmed by pain, discouragement. They feel that life is worthless. They are burdened to the family. But then there's other ways of solving that problem, not by ending your own life. So, but most people, the desire is not to end their life, but it's only to end the pain. I mean, it's so painful. They want to end the pain.
Yeah.
So there's different ways of ending that pain, not by ending your life.
Yeah.
So usually, what I suggest to people is the first thing, if you have these thoughts, if these problems are coming in your life, it's mainly to talk about it, not to put it in yourself, but then talk to someone.
Sure.
So these are different helplines are there. Some people are don't have time. I mean, in the middle of the night, it's important just to ventilate out your feelings, to talk to someone. So we have different helplines. And as you said, I think Reason to Believe also we have. Where I work, we have a helpline. The number is in Sun Care, 1-800-345-3655. So there's a national helpline in India also. So important is to for them to talk to someone, and then to understand also that these emotions, these suicidal thoughts, will not last forever. These are just waves. It comes and goes. Not to make any permanent decision or any major choice or decision during the time of these temporary emotional waves. Because, like you said, it's a very irreversible permanent decision which you have made. And like I said, killing an ant with a sledgehammer, you will not harm only yourself, you will harm your family member, harm the society. So there are many other ways to take care of this problem. One of them is to talk about it, not to ventilate it, to understand that these emotions will not last forever. And then to understand that you're not, during that time, your thoughts are not logical. You're not thinking logically. So, so that you feel the world's better off without you. I mean, it's not true. As Christians, we know that God loves us. God has a plan for each one of us. I mean, if we are alone in this world, so Jesus is willing to die for us. So, I mean, God's love, nothing can separate us from God's love. So, to always give hope to that person. And to remember also that, like I said, the reason is to share a problem, because I believe that God has not put in this world to live the life alone. He has said that it's not good for man to be alone. You should, in Galatians, it says, carry each other burden. So when we feel joyful, when we share with others, I think the joy doubles. When we have pain and problem, when we share it with others, it becomes half. So just sharing it. You might feel it's no use. It won't help you. But then share, talk. That's why we have these helplines. And for us to be with that person, encourage that person to this pain and problem which they go through, and never to give up hope.
Thank you so much. And the number which Dr. Eddie just mentioned will be available on the description, so you can share it with your friends as well. And Dr. Eddie, just now you were talking about having faith, how faith and the idea that God is with us through these struggles, that kind of instills hope in us. So through your experience, I just wanted to ask you this question. How does believing in God or having faith in God help us, cope up with these mental disorders that we are going through? Sometimes it could be emotional pain, or it could be the real, what you call as clinical depression that someone might be having, and up to a point where someone could be suicidal at that time. So in your experience, is it better off for someone to actually believe in God and fight through these things? Or does atheism, in a sense, or not believing in God, actually help us, kind of, navigate or help us run through all of these things? Which is a better option for people according to your experience?
Yeah, my experience and also the different studies that have been done
Okay.
is more objective. And
Sure.
studies have shown
Sure.
that people who are even more spiritual or even more religious, they have less mental health problem and less risk of suicide.
Sure.
That's not to say that people who are religious or Christians don't undergo mental health problem or suicidal risk.
Yeah.
But then studies have shown. And the reason is for people who are spiritual. I mean, they have an anchor in God. In spite of the turbulence and problems in life, that anchor is there which will give them hope. As those who know the Bible, cast your burden unto Christ. God will never leave you, He'll never abandon you. That gives you hope in all this problem.
Yeah.
And one more reason is again, people who are religious, those who go to church, those who go to other temples and mosques, is that they have the social connection. Like I said, one risk factor of suicide is people who are alone, who don't have friends, who don't have social connections. So that social connectedness also does help. To relieve your burden, sharing with others, and thus prevent suicidal risk. So studies have shown that people who are more spiritual and religious have less chance of suicide. So it's but then of course nowadays we have people different types, and we have to give hope to them in different ways. But there's always hope. What will be your belief? But then being spiritual and religious does help. I believe.
Yes.
And in my experience, I've noticed that those who have faith, they do overcome it. Of course, some people, especially among Christian faith, something misguided people, they tend to make you feel more guilty when you're depressed because of sin or because of things. But then, from my experience, it's not true. It's sometimes when you're depressed, those guilty thoughts, those comes more often. But because of depression, you feel more guilty, you feel far away from God. But it's not the other way around. Once the depression goes away, your connection with God also it's better. So.
Or in another sense, when you're feeling that depressed, I could remember, when my dad was diagnosed with cancer. It was a time when it was very dark for my family. Was when we were actually, I personally thought that it was the darkest time in our family's history and so on. We were praying and we thought that God was silent. But there are times when God seems to be very distant. But there'll be times when He actually reveals Himself, and it becomes so clear that your relationship with God becomes actually stronger as well.
That's true.
So I think God allows these periods of depression in all of us as well, not just to say that He's a distant God or anything like that, but rather He's trying to make a revelation to us as well.
That's true.
And I think this would actually be interesting for our viewers as well. There are many gurus around India as well. When they talk about the biblical faith and so on, they would actually say that because the Bible actually teaches about guilt and sin so much, that actually leads people into falling into depression, and that ultimately that depression leads to suicide. So as people who believe in the Bible, how would you kind of address that question? The Bible teaches about sin and guilt. Sin and guilt leads to depression. Depression leads to suicide. How would you address that issue?
So that again, it's a myth about mental illness and depression overall. That depression is because of demon possession, because of sin. So from my experience, of course, generally looking at the whole world, all our mental health issues, all the sickness, the cancer, everything, is because of sin. Starting from Adam and Eve, that we know that. But then in each individual person, I as an outsider have no right to judge that you are going through this mental health problem because of sin. And from my experience, 99% of the time, that's not true. Depression is it's an illness, it's a disease of the mind, which is because of all the stresses and all the chemical, the genetic makeup makes a person depressed and has nothing to do with sin. So we should not make the person more guilty by bringing this other burden. And majority of the time it's not there. Sometimes, of course, might be due to sin, addiction, alcohol, but then most of the time that is not sin. So that's one thing I'll say. And look at the Bible also. No, I mean, if you see stories in the Bible, if you look at the book of Elijah in Kings, you can see. I mean, when Elijah had that mountaintop experience, when he won against the prophets of Baal, no, then Jezebel threatened him. He ran away. He's saying, "God, kill me. I'm worthless. I'm alone. I don't deserve to live." He was running away in the wilderness. But then God came in a soft, small voice and comforted him, brought food for him, and he didn't condemn Elijah. Why do you feel depressed? Why are you not trusting in me? But then in a small, he comforted him. And Elijah did not sin. There was no sin that time. Of course, he did not trust God, but then it's not sin. Even Job also, And Job said, no, when at the end, when I've gone through this fire, I'll come out like gold. No, so that time of depression, those feeling of hopelessness, it purifies him. He said he'll come out as gold. So the Bible, I think, the characters in the Bible who have gone through depression, people like David, even maybe Jesus himself in Gethsemane. But it's not because of sin. So we have to remove this, again, wrong thinking, which will cause more guilt, especially among Christians.
Thank you so much. And if I may add to that, this thing called sin and guilt. Sin is actually a state where human beings are in front of God. When you're in active rebellion against God, that is what we call a sin.
Yes.
And I think many of these gurus, I think they might have gotten their theology wrong in that sense as well. And guilt is a state when that sinful person stands in front of God after he has been touched by God himself. They understand that they are guilty because of the sins that they've committed, and they are not in par with God's standard. But ultimately, what is so beautiful about the biblical faith is that God does not leave us there.
Yes, true.
Not necessarily in our sin and guilt, but rather to save us from our sinful and guiltiness. Christ actually came down so that we can be sanctified, glorified with him, so that we can actually be in relationship with God as well.
Yes.
So ultimately, it is not just leaving us at that depressed state, but actually taking us out from that pool of depression and leaving us at a glorified state, as the theologians would call it. So I think sometimes there are misunderstandings when people talk about sin, guilt, and these concepts as well, and they always end at halfway, not through the whole thing. So I think for our viewers out there, if you have met anyone like that, that is not the complete story. The complete story actually rests in the person of Jesus Christ as well. So Dr. Eddie, I think we'll end with this as well. How is World Suicide Prevention Day celebrated, and what would be your take-home message from this as well?
Yeah, so World Suicide Prevention Day usually is celebrated by cycling. Cycling, all over the world. People go for cycling, and the number of kilometers I've gone through is shared with the WHO to show how many people have thing. So that's usually what is done. And so that's the thing.
Sure.
And my take-home message, especially to this World Suicide Prevention Day, to this reason to believe, is that the stigma is so much there, especially in the churches. So it's a good thing that we're having this discussion to remove this stigma. There's nothing to be ashamed about in talking about suicide, because most of us have these thoughts. We need to come out with it. And like I said, like I said, we need to talk it out. And I found that these small groups, having small group in the churches, in the youth fellowship, is very helpful. Where you can share among them, share your problems, share your emotions, share what you're going through with other people, because just sharing it will help. Then secondly, about the language that we use. Sometimes we tend to say that a person has committed suicide. When we use the word commit, as if it's we imply that it's a criminal act. That the person did something intentionally, but then and that will cause more stigma to the issue. So we need to be very careful with the language that we use. Sometimes it's better to say a person died by suicide, not that they commit suicide. So we should be sensitive to the language we use, because they're very sensitive topics, and people who go through this thing, I understand it's very painful for them. It's a struggle that they go through. So we have to be sensitive in the language we use. And in the end, like I said before, that this suicide is a permanent, irreversible attempt to solve a temporary problem. It's just a temporary issue which can be solved in other ways. Why do you have to go through suicide, which is permanent, irreversible?
Yeah.
So remember that as you're thinking of that, you're hurting other people.
Yes.
Of course, we understand the pain that you're going through. We are standing with you. We want to help you, but then not to. There's other ways of solving the problem, not by ending your life. Yeah.
Thank you
That's what I
so
think,
much.
Pastor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eddie. Dear viewers, if you've been blessed by this podcast, we hope that you will push the like button and also share this with your friends. This is a very important and sensitive topic as well. And we are here with Dr. Eddie, who is an expert in this field. He has helped so many people in this city of Shillong as well. And we hope that this podcast will actually prevent at least one life from being lost. So, Dr. Eddie, thank you so much for enlightening us with those answers that you have given us. And we hope that this podcast will actually benefit those that are in need as well. And if you've been blessed by this podcast, we hope that you will share this with your friends, share it within your church groups or even different college groups as well, because we want to save lives. God bless you, and we hope that you will press the like button for us as well. Thank you so much.